if you're from an Alabama fan perspective, offensively you can't take any. You can take the positive away. Bryce Young had pressure in his face all night. He got rocked a couple times, and he played pretty well, all things considered. So you can take that as a positive. Defensively, you can take a lot of positives. Will Anderson's a beast. They were determined to knock Max Johnson out of the game, not in a dirty way, but they were hitting him. They covered okay, but again, beat up LSU team. How much can you take from that fact? It's like, oh well, we limited this team. So there's just not a ton of positives you can take over a one-score result. And this isn't, and these two teams have been known to play, even when LSU's kind of meh and Alabama's great. I'm thinking of like 2014. God, I keep going back to 2014 for these references too. Give me 2 seconds. LSU, Alabama, Wikipedia. I'm thinking like 2014, 20. Goodness gracious. I want the full games list, please. You know, 2017 it was a 24-10 game. 2016 it was a 10-0 game. So like even when LSU's been kind of bad, this game's been competitive. But tonight there's no excuse. If you're Alabama and you're trying to reach that level that Georgia's at, that game could not be competitive. Hey man, go Tigers! It's rare to say this in a loss. It is. You should be proud of your team. They played really, really hard tonight, considering how much they've lost to injury. Their coach is fired. The rest of the coaching staff, who knows what's going to happen to them. It's not too often, an offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, whoever keeps their job when a head coach is fired. So, and give a lot of credit to the players when they're in flex right now. They played their asses off, and I don't mean to curse that much, and Mark says don't curse, but I think it's warranted here. They played their tails off. Defensively, they really played their tails off. Yeah, it's true. I'm not saying proud, but that was as good a performance as LSU probably could have put tonight. And they played hard. It's easy for teams to quit when you're at this point of the season. And what do you have left to play for? A bowl game? Woohoo. You're 4-5. They're 4-5. They got Arkansas. They got ULM. They should win that game. So they need to beat Arkansas or Texas A&M just to get to a bowl game. And they came out tonight and they played their butts off. And that doesn't always happen in the situation. It would be easy for LSU to fold it in and be like, okay, you know what? Lost year, new coach, injuries, A, B, and C. Screw it. We're in Tuscaloosa. Let's just take our butt kicking and let's get out of here. You've seen teams do that. They didn't tonight. They played their butts off, and they were 30 yards away from a win. 30 yards. They played super aggressive tonight. That's how you're going to beat Alabama. I know looking back, we go, I wish they kicked that field goal on 4th and goal, and then you would only need a field goal at the last time. But you can't rely on that. They didn't coach scared like Scott Frost did today for Nebraska. So, no, always be proud of your team, of course. But there's sometimes you watch a performance and you're like, oh, that was a bad day. LSU fans should not do that after that game. They played as well as they probably could, considering everything that's going on with that program right now. And we'll see. Who do they get to coach from next year? Will it be James Franklin? Will it be Mel Tucker, who had a rough day today? This coaching carousel, this winter, it's going to be nuts. We just talked about it. I mean, how many high-profile jobs are going to be open? Hi, everyone that's tuning in. I can see the numbers of how many people are watching. Leave your comments, reactions to this Alabama game. What in the world was that? What happened? Why was it so close? Leave your thoughts and reactions. We're going to go for a little bit longer, and then I'm going to go to bed because I have to be up early. Comments. He does seem to do that, but with Alabama so often running into the teeth of the defense, there's still holes. There's just nothing there. And this isn't the first time they've had issues running the ball. Definitely not the first time. They had struggles against Mercer, Florida. So we've talked about it on the show. It's not the running game they've had. And Brian Robinson's fine, but yeah, I think that's a big part of it. Their O-line's just not very good. In some games, they look okay. Tonight was bad, and it wasn't just in the run game. Bryce took a lot of hits. He got sacked 4 times. And Bryce Young has a tendency sometimes to hold on to the ball too long, and I really, really wish he would use – and this is something we've talked every game, I think, this year, except maybe like one. He needs to run the ball and take off. I respect the young man for wanting to stand back there, move around, keep his eyes downfield, because that's what you're gonna have to do in the NFL for the most part. But man, sometimes I'm just watching on my TV. It's like, Bryce, just take the 6 yards. Just take the 6 yards. 2nd and 4, 3rd and 4, first down on 3rd and 5, whatever. Take the 6 yards. You don't need to try and force something up the sideline or down the middle to your tight end. But for the most part, he was okay tonight. I don't think Bryce Young's the problem, and he's only going to get better. That's what's scary, is he's only going to get better. But we'll see about the rest of the team when it comes back. Yeah, the O-line's just not very good this year. And that's a scary thought for Alabama, because usually it's just like they just plow through teams. We'll see. I mean, they got 3 games before Georgia, but probably Georgia. They play New Mexico State. They play an Arkansas team that they should beat. And they got Auburn on the road against no Bix. And early in the show, people mentioned it. Auburn can get them. I think some weird things are going to have to happen. But Auburn can definitely get them. Yeah, Will Anderson was a monster. He was a freak tonight. Just an absolute freak. He's so good. And he'll be back next year. I'm trying to think in doing these shows after every game. I think you're kind of right. There really is no identity offensively. Like, what do they do well outside of Bryce Young making plays? But it's kind of like the Seattle Seahawks right now, where it's Russ making plays, and then other than that, it's what do you do well? Defensively, I think they're fine. They've kind of picked it up a little bit. They were atrocious in that A&M game, but Will Anderson talked, and since then, they've been okay. They've been much, much better. Since that game, 9 points to Mississippi State, and we just saw Mississippi State just put up 28 in Arkansas on the road, 24 points to Tennessee. Look, I know Tennessee isn't great, but that team can score some points. And then 14 points today. So today's game is more on the offense. The defense. They gave up 2 drives. One was a fake punt, and even I know LSU's hurt, but they're still Division I caliber athletes to go to LSU. They're still elite athletes, and with how college football and football in general has started officiating itself, teams are going to go on a couple drives. I mean, I said this earlier. Missouri went on a couple drives against UGA today. It happens. So the defense was really good today, all things considered. Oh, yeah, crazy things do happen in the Iron Bowl. That's why it's so fun. But for the most part, you could look at those Alabama team. You can look at those teams and go, if Auburn can score some points, I don't know if Auburn can score 20-plus points on Alabama. And that's what it's going to take. I don't think it's going to take like 40 points. Or, last year, it's like, well, if you're going to beat Bama, you better score 70. Because Ole Miss scored 50 and lost. But I don't know. It's going to take like a defensive score or something. No, I said that against A&M too. So we'll see.